Good afternoon. Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. Welcome to a Baseball Friday news dump on a Thursday. The Dodgers have the best record in baseball. Not sure when that happened, but they have too much talent. Ahmed Rosario gone. Jason Heyward, the latest to leave in a roster crunch, as broken by my co-host, Fansided MLB insider Robert Murray. Plus, good news for the Perry heads, bad news for Angels fans who don't agree with the direction or are worried about continued pressure from ownership. Scott Servais out in Seattle, and the one team that should regret their trade deadline additions the most, and this one's pretty obvious, but we still need to talk about it. Joining me to help me through it all is Fansided's MLB insider, Robert Murray. Robert, how are you doing, dude? Whirlwind afternoon already.
It has been a whirlwind of an afternoon. It's been a good afternoon until just now when I realized I spelled your name wrong in my tweet.
What do we go with? How do we spell it?
Weinrib.
Weinrib. I still, you know what's funny? I got a push notification for that tweet, and I have notifications turned on for you, and everybody should. But I usually, for some reason, don't, and I think that's because I'm usually tagged. And this time, I got the noti because I'm not Weinrib. But we love it, and I retweeted it. And everybody else should too.
I appreciate you doing that, even despite the spelling your name wrong. It's pretty embarrassing. We're better friends than that, so yeah. I apologize for that. But yeah, we got a lot going on today in baseball, man. Holy cow! It's been a very busy afternoon. We just broke the Jason Heyward thing as I was making some pasta, so it's been a busy day. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, whirlwind. Spoiler alert, we already planned to talk about the Los Angeles Dodgers today, as you could tell from the framing device of this episode. But we're going to start with them because we have to, because they're the most recent bit of crazy news. If you want inside tips on news Robert is about to break, or you want to ask us questions in between shows, please join us in the Discord channel. You can either join at the All-Star tier, where you get private streams with Robert and I once a month. We're trying to plan that for next week. I believe we've got that locked down, but come talk to us in the All-Star channel. We'll get the timing right. We'll get you a link if you can't join, or join us in the rumor mill if you just want to ask us questions. We're more than happy to answer them. Want to alert you to the Moonshot as well, our weekly baseball email newsletter from the Fansided MLB team that includes Robert Murray breaking down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, and behind-the-scenes info. So look out for that subscribe link. We'd love to see you join the Moonshot as well. Just get sent right to your inbox. Well, looky here. The Dodgers are the best team in baseball. The pathway to get there hasn't made a lot of sense. The rotation's still somewhat in shambles. We will get to the bottom of all that. But I think a lot of people predicted preseason they would have the best record in the game on August 22nd, and they currently do. But I don't think anyone could have foreseen the road we took to get there. Chris Taylor is finally returning. Should he be given a roster spot outright based on his output this year, which looks a lot like DJ LeMahieu in New York? I don't know, but the Dodgers have decided to solve that roster crunch for now by waving Jason Heyward out the door after his game-winning homer against Seattle just a couple of days ago that might have gotten a man fired on the other sideline as well. You broke the news that Heyward's days were numbered, in fact, numbered down to 0. What's your reaction to that move and that news?
Yeah, the Dodgers obviously had to make room for Chris Taylor in some sort of way. And they had to make a very difficult decision here. Do they keep Heyward or do they keep Kiermaier? Like, what exactly do they do? And in the end, they chose to go with Kiermaier and have his bat off the bench rather than Heyward. And parting ways with Heyward is a very difficult decision for the Dodgers. Like, they love what he provided both on the field and off the field. He was a leader in that clubhouse, a respected veteran, and also one of Freddie Freeman's best friends. And he was one of their first signings in the offseason, signed him for $9 million. And he was a key part of that locker room. And parting ways with him, that was tough for them. But he's now going to be subject to waivers. I would highly, highly doubt he's going to be claimed, considering the amount that he's making this year of $9 million. So I'd imagine he clears waivers and becomes a free agent. And what happens after that is anyone's guess. I do think a team like the Brewers can make some sense there. That's just my own speculation, not necessarily something I've heard, but the Brewers do need some outfield help, especially with Christian Yelich out for the year. Just a natural fit there. But for the Dodgers, they're moving forward here with Chris Taylor, Kevin Kiermaier as well. We'll see exactly what decision or if they're going to end up regretting that decision or going to be happy with it. But it was a move that was tough for them, and they had to make it today.
if you were here on Monday, we connected the dots and hat tipped some helpful commenters on, hey, Gio Urshela to the Braves makes a lot of sense. That ended up occurring. So Brewers vacancy without Yelich, who's officially down for the count for the year, certainly makes sense as well. But furthermore, I mean, LA is, it's not easy to clear a roster spot on the Dodgers. You're DFAing $9 million players in order to make room for Chris Taylor. You're choosing Kiermaier as the defensive replacement. And, you know, also the bat's somewhat potent as well. But it's not like the Dodgers, with, again, the best record in baseball, have airtight pitching and an airtight rotation down the stretch. Losing names left and right. River Ryan, just after he emerged, is already gone. Dustin May, we're not going to see this year. Yoshinobu Yamamoto threw a couple innings in live BP the other day, but who knows? Walker Buehler is here, but he certainly isn't all here. If I think the Dodgers go as far as this rotation goes, they're going to have to get very creative with the bullpen as is already. They don't have enough overflow from the rotation to get creative in using starters out of the bullpen. You're not going to see a guy like May throwing multiple innings in October. What do you see? What do you expect to unfold for this Dodgers rotation down the stretch? Who are they really placing their faith in?
Yeah, it's a good question. And if there's anything that could sink the Dodgers this season, it's going to end up being this rotation. It is a huge question mark. And you can look no further than Walker Buehler right now, because ever since he's come off the injured list from his second Tommy John surgery, he has not looked like the pitcher that he was before this surgery. He's got an ERA that's over 6 right now, has really struggled in the first inning. And you thought, when he ended up facing the Mariners, you got to at least have some sort of optimism that, considering how poor they are on offense, that could be like a get right game and like get him going in the right direction. But instead, he allowed 2 runs in the first inning after recording, I believe he got his first 2 outs in 3 pitches. Then it took him 25 pitches to get the last out, which last time I checked, that's not great. And he only lasted 4 innings, allowed 3 runs, struck out 1 guy. I believe he walked 3. And it was a troublesome outing. And the Dodgers are gonna allow him to work through the struggles that he's dealing with on the major league roster, in the rotation. Like, they want him to work through it before the postseason gets here. But considering how poor his performance has been, that's tough. And this isn't exactly a guarantee that they win the division either. You got the Diamondbacks and the Padres lurking as well. So he's pitching in some pretty important games here. This is not, it's very crucial right now. And it's like, you also look at some of the other pieces in that rotation too. Like Bobby Miller, he had such high expectations coming into this year, and yet he's floundered. He's been moving back and forth between AAA and the majors. That rotation is a huge, like, gigantic question mark. And we'll see if they can get it right before the postseason gets here. But if they don't, that could spell trouble, and figure they face the right team. Maybe that could mean an early exit for the Dodgers. That would be a wow. A wow is right. Yeah.
That's what you heard on this Monday Brewers pod as well. We still have faith in that Milwaukee team for a reason. You mentioned the Mariners offense, a sort of a reprieve for Walker Buehler. I love giving people our outline for today just got hacked and whacked by Major League Baseball's news cycle. Like, there was a question up top about, like, hey, who's going to come out on the wrong side of the roster crunch in LA? Jason Heyward. Then there was a Mariners in free fall segment that included the line, Jerry DiPoto hinted Scott Servais isn't safe. You know, it's a pretty good hint that Scott Servais isn't safe. Scott Servais getting fired today. That was a pretty solid hint. It's going to be Mariners fan favorite Dan Wilson taking over for the rest of the season. Is this a Grady Sizemore situation? Is this an audition? Who knows? It just dropped right before we got on the show that Edgar Martinez is going to join the coaching staff. I would label that very fun. This Mariners team was 10 games up in the division on June 18th. You're talking about all-time collapses. Obviously, the Astros came and got it. You know, they don't make up that much ground without having the best record in baseball during that span. But the Mariners are 5 back now with an all-time rotation and an all-time bad offense, even after adding Randy Rosarena. More changes are in tow for this team this offseason because I don't know. I wouldn't put it quite in the same ballpark as the White Sox in terms of their trajectory of, like, making the playoffs. Maybe next year the ALCS. Oh, not so much. Oh, now they're sliding, and now they're the worst team in the American League. not quite in the same ballpark, and maybe not quite the same hopes were pinned on the Mariners' shoulders after 2022, but still really bleak in-season plummet, and they're going to have to make some significant adjustments.
Oh, they absolutely are. And like moving on from Servais is not a surprise at all. If you read Ken Rosenthal's story the other day on the Mariners fall, and you got to see Jerry DiPoto's comments about Servais in particular, you could kind of see the writing on the wall that a change was looming, like that it was something that was definitely in play. And lo and behold, they parted ways with him today. An announcement should be coming in the next couple hours. And it's a shocking collapse by the Mariners. And it went from being one of the most promising seasons in recent team history to perhaps the most disappointing one, considering the expectations and now just this free fall. And they had to do something. And in the offseason, that job is going to be about as coveted as it gets. So you look at it, it's very rare that an opportunity or a job arises where you have that kind of pitching staff and you have some foundational pieces on offense that you can build around, that you can build your lineup around. Like having Rodriguez there, that's about as good of a piece as it gets. So I expect there to be no shortage of candidates and options for this job. I think that'd make a lot of sense for a guy like Skip Schumacher. He's going to end up being connected to every job. That's just the reality of it at this point. But for right now, though, like the Mariners had to make a move. They had to at least find some sort of scapegoat because this offense has been historically bad. Like it is terrible. For as good as the pitching is, the offense has been just as bad. And they had to make a move. They moved on from Servais today. Maybe that can give them a jolt in the clubhouse, but I'm in wait and see mode on that because that offense it looks lifeless at this point.
Lifeless, I guess that describes it. Yeah, is there a word that goes harder than lifeless? It's been absurd to watch. In the AL West, I think we all thought it was going to be this pressure cooker this year between the Mariners and defending world champion Texas Rangers and an Astros team that never goes anywhere. All of a sudden, the Astros have the biggest division lead of anybody and are looking like the safest bet for the postseason of any division leader. So one of the reasons we were so down on the Angels this offseason too is that there were 3 dominant teams in that division. Now, not so much. And look, it's the Angels out of nowhere who make maybe a positive splash today. Perry Minasian going to stick around for a while. Interesting deadline for them. Tyler Anderson stays. Kevin Pillar stays. We implored them to rid themselves of Kevin Pillar and help him out last show. Still haven't done it. But noticeable steps forward for Zach Neto. Nolan Shanuel has been acceptable, I would say. Not sure what Joe Adell and Mickey Moniak are, but Logan O'Hoppe, one of the best young catchers in baseball. Ben Joyce emerging. These young Angels, not quite there yet, and they're playing without pressure and good draft this year, Christian Moore. I don't know. Apparently the future is a little bit brighter than maybe some of us who were obscured by the reality of Artie's meddling might have seen earlier in the year. Either way, Perry's going to get a little bit more leeway, less of a lame duck. What say you about the direction of this franchise?
Yeah, the Angels are a really difficult franchise because I really don't think this team can compete unless there's an ownership change. That's just the reality of it at this point. But I will say, considering the circumstances that he's under, I do think that Perry has done a relatively good job. Like he gets a lot of flack, and there's been some things that have not worked out for him. Obviously, that's pretty clear at this point. But he's added like some young foundational pieces to this team. He made some good moves at the deadline here. Like trade in moving Carlos Estevez, moving him to the Phillies and getting those 2 pitching prospects in return was an awesome move. Getting Logan O'Hoppe for Brandon Marsh was a great move. He's drafted well in the earlier rounds. And I think Perry, he's done a good job. He gets a lot of flack, some of it deserved, but they view him as a good executive, a guy who has done things that have put that organization in a better spot, that gives them pieces to build around. Obviously, they got to spend their money more wisely in free agency, but he's done a good job of building the nucleus up. He's still got a lot of work to do. He's got to, as I said, invest better in free agency, and the pressure is going to be on for him because he's going to have, I believe this extension runs through 2026. So he'll have a couple years, and this is another thing this does too, is it adds stability in the front office, because there's been changes, plenty of changes under Artie Moreno, and it gives the leadership the same. It's obviously the signals that Ron Washington's going to be back. I don't think there was any doubt about that. But they're going to have the same people moving forward in both positions for next year, which is a good thing for them. And I know the general reaction when it happened was like, what the heck, Artie? But I think it was a good move by him, keeping Perry. And yeah, smart move, I think.
I will also say, tough challenge this offseason right away. You should be working on it now. Figure out how to sell your franchise to the number one free agent pitcher on the market who happens to be a hometown kid, Corbin Burnes.
Remember what I said on one of the previous shows, though. Burnes loves to win. And
yes.
If you want to win, you're not going to Anaheim. That's just the reality. I'm sorry, Angels fans, I'm sure that you're probably not going to like me saying that, but I think you'd even agree with that too.
Yes. No, it's a long shot, and there's no PowerPoint in the world that can convince Corbin Burnes to look at that current roster and just sign on up. But either way, sharpen your salesmanship skills, Perry. Get a little bit better and stronger in free agency, and convince your ownership to help you out there as well. Either way, vote of confidence. Speaking of Corbin Burnes' current team, I already wanted to talk about the Baltimore Orioles trade deadline regrets, and that was before this morning when they demoted Trevor Rogers, a move that, look, we live in a fast-paced world. Everything is go, go, go. Everyone has access to all the same information these days, so it's even harder for front offices to make moves, because if you're Googling a Savant page, guess what? Every fan has that Savant page. Everybody knows who's got bounce back potential. It's even harder to find inroads and unexpected successes. It's even harder to mess up as badly as surrendering real assets for Trevor Rogers when everybody has the info that shows there's almost nothing under the hood there. Baltimore options him today. That means their deadline is Zach Eflin, who was great for a couple of starts, but is now on the IL with a shoulder issue. Seranthony Dominguez, whose ERA has been solid, but has already blown 3 saves since coming to Baltimore, got walked off by the Mets twice. Francisco Alvarez got him, and Jesse Winker got him and celebrated it, walking down first. And Gregory Soto has like a 14.5 ERA. So, man, if you're the Orioles, you got all that prospect ammo in the world. Maybe you call up the Marlins and you pretend you're interested in Rogers, and then you really make a play for Tanner Scott, because I don't know how you come out on the other side of that deadline with the prospect capital the Orioles have, and that's all you've given to your best in the AL roster.
Yeah, like it's been a gigantic swing and a miss. Like this is, I mean, they had, like as you said, they have all the prospect capital in the world, and they parted with some of it, especially in this Trevor Rogers deal, parting with Connor Norby and another guy. And Rogers has made 4 starts with the Orioles, and he had a 7.11 ERA, and he also walked 10 guys in about 19 innings. And he, even in the moment, like that trade to me was a huge head scratcher, because I remember, I'll break it down for you how this ended up happening. I found out that it was at the deadline. I found out that Norby was going to the Marlins. I heard it. I knew it was true. And I was in my head instantly, I'm thinking Tanner Scott just got traded to the Orioles. Like that was exactly my thinking. And all of a sudden I saw Ken Rosenthal tweet saying it was Trevor Rogers going to the Orioles. And I'm like, wait, what? And then not only did the Orioles part with Norby, but they parted with another very good, like highly regarded prospect. And it was really confusing. They could have used their resources and assets on so many other different, better players. And yet it felt like they got too cute with this. And after 4 starts, they optioned him to AAA. Maybe going or sending him down will allow him to reset, take a deep breath, and end up coming back stronger. But if you look at his previous numbers from different seasons, I mean, this year he's got a 4.92 ERA. Last year he had a 4 ERA, in 4 games. But then also 5.47 ERA in 2022. Like the most recent seasons for him have not been encouraging. And I don't know necessarily what the Orioles saw. Maybe things can change, but that deal to me in the moment, and especially now, felt like easily the worst deal of the deadline, and they're paying the price for it now.
And this comment sums up, as if that wasn't enough information about why it wasn't a good deal. You know, what the Orioles gave up for Rogers, they would have given up for Luzardo if he was not on the IL. maybe, but you don't have to make a move just to make a move.
No.
I mean, don't give it up for Rodgers then. Don't give it up for anybody, or find a way to get Tanner Scott. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, because like as they say, sometimes the best move is the one that you don't make. And in this case, the best move they could have made was not making the Trevor Rodgers trade. Absolutely.
Yeah, Eflin should be back before too long. He'll have an impact, but I don't think they went far enough. And when you start the deadline, Craig Kimbrell's probably your best high leverage reliever or second best behind Cano. You end the deadline, that's still true. That's not a good place to be. It's what I've gotten on the Yankees for. They had bullpen needs. Clay Holmes was their best reliever before the deadline. He's their best reliever after the deadline. Not fantastic. The Orioles ended up in the same situation, but they added a starter who just does not have a fit on this team and is now headed to AAA to continue to grow and tweak, I guess. Didn't understand it then. Good to still not understand it now. And, oh, by the way, Hector Neris DFA'd the other day. They let him go back to Houston. Like, I don't know if I believe in Hector Neris this season this year. He's got a 1.5 whip. Certainly you don't want his option to vest on your – did the vesting option get canceled out by the DFA? I think it might have.
I think it did, yeah.
Yeah, I think it did. But, I mean, regardless, like, hey, you're making – you're tossing darts at your bullpen. Go toss that dart Hector Neris' way. He cleared waivers. Never mind. Okay, your AL rival just got better, or at least took a stab at it. Like, you're in experimentation mode. Go. Rodgers is an experiment. Go get another one.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, like, I mean, Neris, as soon as he ended up getting DFA'd and released by the Cubs, I joke with somebody, like, how long until he goes back to the Astros?
Yeah.
And, well, in reality, it didn't take that long. And it was a move that made a lot of sense. And obviously it's it's throwing a dart up against the board, but it's a dart that they're familiar with. And I think it's a low risk move that has potential big upside for a team that needed some bullpen reinforcements. I think it was a really smart move. I'm sure it was probably for the minimum, and the Cubs will pay the rest of his salary for the remainder of the year. It's good business by Houston, and it has potential to really pay off for them. And if it doesn't work out, then they can just part ways with them with no real cost at all. So good business and a smart move by Dana Brown.
Yeah, they're good at bringing in familiar faces. It typically tends to pay off. And also, why wouldn't, if you're going to roll the dice with somebody roll the dice with somebody you were probably comfortable bringing back this offseason if you weren't paying that Rafael Montero money. And if he wasn't looking for, there was a rumor it was like 3 years and $50 million. I mean, that can't have been 100% accurate. But either way, looking for a big contract that you couldn't give him, but now you get a chance on him at the league minimum, you might as well take it. Going to the crowd in the comment section for just a bit, wanted to touch on the Trevor Story comments because we had an early comment about Craig Breslow saying there was a strong possibility we see Trevor Story this year. I know Red Sox Twitter reacts to Trevor Story's name like it's catnip, and he is working out the procedure that he had earlier this season. The indication was might not be down for the count after that awful looking collapse on the field in Anaheim. What are you hearing about the possibility of Story being activated? What's the value there for Boston as well? I guess you would think that the timelines would have to line up. They would have to still be in contention for that wild card spot or holding on to it to give Story a chance. Otherwise, rest and rehab feels like a better prescription.
No, for sure. I think it will depend on the if they're still in the contention for a postseason spot. But I have not heard a timeline on a potential rehab assignment. I honestly haven't. But when Craig Breslow says that there's a strong possibility, then yeah, there's a strong possibility. So that would be a huge boost for the Red Sox. It would add another really strong bat and also veteran option to that infield or however they want to deploy him when he returns. It would only mean good things for them. So with him saying that there's a strong possibility, I would look out for that at some point because we're 127 games into the year at this point. So I mean, it would have to be relatively soon, you'd think, if he's going to return by the end of the year. So, well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, but appreciate the question as always, Jason. I also feel like I have to address Sports Glory, who's very upset with his San Francisco Giants, wanting the window to close on Melvin and Farhan before too long. This is season 1 of Bob Melvin in San Francisco, by the way. The Giants are, at this moment in time, contending for that final NL wildcard spot. I would preach patience here, but I know we've talked in the past about the heat being on Farhan if this season does not end in a satisfactory manner. I guess the question is, what is satisfactory for these current Giants?
I would think a satisfactory for them would have to be like reaching the postseason because they invested a lot of dollars into this team in the offseason. They obviously got Blake Snell. They got Matt Chapman. They got Jorge Soler, obviously, who's now in Atlanta. But they invested a lot of dough into this team, and they're 65 and 64 right now, and they're 3.5 games back in the wild card. And so they still got some room to grow or catch up here, especially with Atlanta having the third spot. And then also, I mean, you look at the Diamondbacks and the Padres right now, they're in total command and total control for those two of those wild card spots. So it's going to be tough for the Giants to sneak into this. I don't think they'd fire him. I do wonder how long Melvin will continue to manage. I do wonder that. So we'll see. But at this point, I would be kind of surprised if either one of them got fired, especially as you said, this is Melvin's first year in San Francisco, and they wanted him badly.
Melvin, right on that borderline of Hall of Fame manager, like one World Series, and I think he's considered. I don't know. Maybe that's absurd.
Yeah, well, and yeah, I can see it. I can definitely see it, but I don't know. That's tough. That's real tough.
That might be a terrible take. That's one of those takes that I just didn't even sit on at all, and I just literally spat it out of my mouth. I'm gonna have to do some Googling. Yeah. It depends how much the committee loves the Oakland A's. You know what? I'm gonna amend that to appears on a ballot a couple times and does not get in.
Yeah, I think that's probably more fair. I mean, he's a very good manager. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Well,
yeah. That's what I'm going with. I thought it over. My brain debated the rest of my brain, and I decided probably going to be like, on Survivor when there's a 0 vote finalist, and you're like, well, why was he even here? Like, it's that kind of thing. It's like, all right, well, I mean, I hope you enjoy the Hall of Fame ballot, but good manager.
No, for sure. And Andrew, there's no Padres news.
The Padres news is that Bob Melvin's job probably not in India.
Wait, I'm gonna look at something real quick.
Former Padres.
Wait, so I was curious, with the Mariners' offense being as bad as it is, they still got a plus 14 run differential. I think that's just a sign of how good that pitching staff has been. But also, then you're looking at the Giants. I'm looking at run differentials now because Sports Glory's got me curious. Giants got a minus 11 run differential, so I know the offense has been pretty poor in San Francisco. But as I was saying, I'd be surprised if either one got fired. We'll see. But that's my current stance and current read at this point.
We'll see. We appreciate the question as always. I've been mean to the Yankees for several podcasts in a row, so I'll be nice to them and say Garrett Cole threw a one-hitter today, and the Yankees responded to, I think, their worst loss of the season by taking a series from the Guardians. Baseball is interesting. Again, lot of stretch run baseball yet to be played. Yankees could have distanced themselves from the Orioles. They didn't. Orioles could have distanced themselves from the Yankees. They definitely did not. And let's have ourselves a pennant race. And let's see where Jason Heyward goes. Hopefully we know on Monday when we'll be right back here, 3:30 Eastern on the Baseball Insiders. Appreciate everybody joining us today. That Discord is wide open. Just hit join on this video. We would love to see you at either the All-Star tier or the Rumor Mill tier. Come in the channel and chat with us. Also, the Moonshot, you can get yourself a subscription to Fansided MLB's email newsletter with content from Robert, satirical content from the MLB editorial staff. It's good stuff. We would recommend that you sign up for that as well. Robert Murray, who knows what Friday News Dump brings now that we know what Thursday News Dump brought, which is a hell of a lot of news.
There was a lot of things today. It was a very action-packed morning.
Dom Smith to the Reds. I forgot. We didn't even do – the Reds claim everybody. So apparently they've claimed Dom Smith as well.
Yeah, no, Dom. If you subscribe or read the Moonshot, which is that mailbag that we were talking about in the beginning of the show, I teased that Dom Smith was on the verge of signing with the team. Did not mention the Reds, but I did tease that he was on the verge of signing. So I had a pretty good idea something was coming down. And unfortunately, Jeff Passan scooped me on that. Never liked Jeff Passan anyways.
Nope.
No, I'm just kidding. We this is a Jeff Passan. We love Jeff Passan on this podcast. He's a great dude. Very good at his job. Makes life very difficult for me, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Jeff Passan, good guy.
Passan, great guy. Hopefully Robert, I know you'll be looking for Passan at the winter meetings. Maybe we'll have some Passan content for you. If you're sticking with us through the summer, we appreciate it. October, November, December, we can't wait. Those are the golden tier months. You're going to want to be here if you're not here already. But if you're here already, shout out to you. For Robert Murray, I'm Adam Weinrib. We will see you in the Discord. We will see you right back here next Monday, 3:30 Eastern, like clockwork, or a couple minutes late because my internet is being weird. Definitely one of the two. Until then, we'll see you.
Take care, everybody.